it's a short turnaround for these players. The Paris Olympic Games are going to take place just in 2024. There's not a lot of prep in between then. And in all of that look ahead, there's lots of chatter and conversation about the head coach. Is it going to be Adnowski? Is it going to be somebody else? Whoever it is, they're going to have their work cut out for them. But I think the easiest position perhaps to take a look at is this goalkeeper position. You got to go with Alyssa Nair at this point, and Casey Murphy just coming off of the recent form for both of these players. No, we did not see Casey Murphy get minutes during this previous World Cup, but we did see Alyssa Nair, who really, I think, kind of hushed some of those doubters going into this World Cup. I couldn't believe that this was going to be another consecutive World Cup for Alyssa Nair, where she went ahead and had all of this narrative around her, right? Drop in form. Can she handle it? Blah, 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 right? All of those 2016 and 29 takes, somehow returning in 2023. But what a way for her to end her tournament. And if, we all remember in the Tokyo Olympic Games, she had to come out of that semifinal match against Canada. So I think she might want another crack at a medal, and I have her going to the Olympic roster as well.
And
for the defenders, I think...
Go ahead, Sandra.
Sorry, Jordan. I'm just on a roll here. For the defenders, I got a little bit of a shakeup here, and maybe some of these here you might want to ask me on, Jordan. I got Tierra Davidson in the mix in this one. Crystal Dunn, Emily Fox, Naomi Girma, Sofia Huerta, and Emily Sonnet returning for another major tournament here.
I like this list. I think this is going to be a really tough to pick what the defenders look like. I have Abby Smith and Katie Lund, too, in that mix potentially for the goalkeeper. So I'm going to put that out there, Sandra. I would be remiss if I didn't say those two names making their way into some camps. But when you talk specifically about defenders, I'm surprised Alana Cook is not on that list. It's interesting when you talk about what's happened to Alana Cook in the last month even. But then I'm thinking this team needs a left back, and they need a left back in order to then allow other players to play higher up the field. What about Casey Kruger? What about Carson Pickett as a player that could come in and make her name into this potential roster?
Jordan, that's absolute music to my ears. I mean, I remember when we did our 23-player World Cup prediction, I had Casey Kruger going to the World Cup. And this is someone who has experience on this Olympic team as well. Was part of that bronze medal winning team in the Tokyo Games, coming off of a massive performance in Challenge Cup. Why not have her on this roster, or Carson Pickett instead? I think with that quick turnaround, whoever is in charge of putting together this Olympic roster is going to want to try to stay with as much continuity as possible. I think we've seen that in the past. We saw it just in that Tokyo Olympic Games, and I think that's not going to change going into these Paris Games at all. And as far as Alana Cook, was really disappointed to not see her get some time on the pitch. Curious coaching staff decisions there to kind of relegate her a little bit to kind of an afterthought. But in terms of alternates, I would have her as an alternate going into these Olympic Games.
Both of those players that you're mentioning there, Jordan, have been with the U.S. women's national team before, so integrating them wouldn't be completely alien. Let's go ahead and move forward to the midfielders. Sandra.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the midfielders who could possibly go to the Paris Olympic Games, if healthy, of course, I've got Savannah DeMello, Lindsay Horan, Roosevelt, Andy Sullivan, and Katerina Macario. I think probably the biggest name there might be Macario at this point, because this is a player that had to remove herself from contention for that 23-player roster in the World Cup. And Roosevelt, a player that everyone was holding their breath about. How many minutes is she going to get? How fit is she going to be? And then we saw her play a significant amount of minutes in this World Cup, but not in that knockout round match. So I would imagine that is a player that is incredibly motivated to get back on the international stage with this team moving forward.
Sandra, I love that you've put Katerina Macario on this list for your midfield players. She just had her first practice with Chelsea, so things are looking bright for the Olympics. But where is Sam Coffey, midfielder for Portland Thorns? She played with the United States in the CONCACAF W Championship, got called up, and she would have been at the World Cup if it were not for Julie Ertz. Why didn't Coffey make your list?
Yeah, coffee didn't make my list because, again, how this roster was put together for this World Cup. Lisa, I hear you in that Sam Coffey should have been on that World Cup roster, but that is a player that we know can excel at the club level. And for whatever reason, the coaching staff, despite calling her into these national team camps, did not give this player extended minutes or time with the national team in the buildup to a CONCACAF W championship or within that actual tournament when she was called in as a reserve in place of Ashley Hatch, or definitely not in any of the remaining minutes available leading up to the World Cup in 2023. So again, whoever is in charge of putting together this roster, I think they're going to go with a little bit of recency bias coming off of this World Cup. I would love to see Coffey within it, but I just think all of the minutes and footage that is available with a DeMello, with Lindsey Horan, with Andy Sullivan as well, is going to keep her off of this roster.
Oh, Sandra, I hear you, but I stand by my takes consistently that Sam Coffey needs to be in there. I need her in the starting 11. I don't know how we get her in there, but we do. Let's move on to the forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. The attacking core, I think, similar to the goalkeeping core right now, there are no more informed forwards than the ones that we just saw in this World Cup. So I absolutely have Trinity Rodman, Sophia Smith, and Lynn Williams as a part of this core. I think Mallory Swanson is going to make a run to try to get back to a major Olympic tournament. She was left off of that Tokyo roster, had an incredible run of form in the build-up to the World Cup, and then unfortunately suffered that torn patella tendon injury that kept her out of this current tournament. So she's taking her first touches over this next 12 months. Maybe we're going to get to see this player rise into form once again and make her way back to an Olympic roster. But look, like you're all vouching for Sam Coffey, and I agree with you. I'm going to vouch for Jaden Shaw. I think it's time for her to get into the mix with these senior national team camps and show a little bit of an X factor there and get involved into the mix of things, shake it up. Jaden Shaw going to the Olympics.
Sandra, I couldn't agree more. I've been a Jaden Shaw stan for a while now. I have to say, no Hatchie, no Ashley Hatch, no Mia Fischel. I really think that she's going to be the future of this U.S. women's national team. I was surprised to not see her on your list.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's tough to put something like this, but that's why they're way too early predictions, right? I'm so excited for Mia Fischel and her new contract with Chelsea. I think if this national team program is going to keep a close eye on players like Horan, players like Catarina Macario, those who are playing in Europe, you have to keep an eye on Mia Fischel as well. So not only am I eager to see her make a new move with a new team, but how is Emma Hayes going to utilize this player? We've seen a lot of talent at Chelsea sometimes get left on the bench and not have those minutes available to them. So I hope that's not the case for Mia Fischel here. In fact, I want to see her go and take over England, take over Chelsea, and make a push for this Olympic roster. She's absolutely one of my wild cards.
Thank you so much, Sandra. We love when you join us and your insight. You are the 5th member of our team. Never forget it.